Chronos Before the Ashes. This might be the game with the weirdest trailer that still managed to pique my interest in the end. And when I say weird, I don't mean it was intriguing, it was just weird.
Mom, I'm busy!
But the gameplay and visuals shown off did manage to grab me. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but it was enough to make me want to try it out. Going into it, the only knowledge I really had about the game is that it had similarities to Dark Souls, and in some ways that ended up being true, but it also ended up being more than that. The game starts with a very basic character creation. You have the choice between male or female, one of the two starting weapons, and the game's difficulty. There's no clothing options or anything beyond that. I'm thinking that the game isn't so much supposed to be about your self-insert, as much as it's about a set person within the game's world, with male or female options just being for player preference. The sword option is for people who prefer faster striking and dodging attacks, while the axe is for those who lean towards stronger strikes and blocking. This shows early on that there's more than one way to approach combat in this game. You do get additional weapons as you progress, but they generally seem to adhere to these two playstyles with some slight differences. The human characters have a pretty basic look to them, but I really love the overall art direction of the game. The world looks beautiful with great use of lighting and lots of environmental details. I also really love the enemy designs. With so many fantasy games out there, these creative creatures manage to stand out just fine. They even have some pretty fluid attack animations. These baddies are what really caught my attention from the game's trailer in the first place. The combat of the game is engaging, giving you a few options on how to approach fights as mentioned before. You have a light attack, heavy attack, a dodge, a block, and a parry. Your attacks will vary on speed and direction depending on what weapon you're wielding. Sometimes certain enemies are better dealt with a slow, powerful weapon, or a weaker but faster weapon. You have a stamina bar which drains when you sprint, and also as you block hits. If you run out, your block will be broken, making you vulnerable. Unlike Dark Souls, however, you do not lose stamina from dodging or attacking yourself. The battles here are very back and forth, meaning that even basic enemies can be dangerous if you're not careful or you just try spamming your attack. You can choose to rely a lot on blocking and parrying to make your opponent open for an attack, or you can use a well-timed dodge. As you kill enemies, you'll gain XP to level up, which will refill your health bar and give you points to spend on 4 different attributes, each affecting a certain group of stats. Early on, you find your first Dragon Stone, which gives you a great boost in combat. Now, a well-timed parry or dodge will imbue your weapon with an elemental power, making your next strike much stronger. You can also use a charged heavy attack to inflict the elemental damage. As you land hits, a new bar will fill up, which when full allows you to trigger a super mode that has a different helpful effect depending on which Dragon Stone you have equipped. I really love these Dragon Stones as they give you a bigger reward for efficient swordplay, and add another element to your battles without forcing too many additions to worry about during a fight. Two other important items you'll collect as you play are Dragon Shards and Dragon Hearts. Dragon Shards are pretty simple, you tend to pick them up after the occasional defeated enemy. With enough of them, you can give a permanent boost to one of your weapons, but it will cost more shards each time you do this. Dragon Hearts are a little more complicated and a lot more rare to find. If you have one, you can use it to refill your health. This doesn't consume the heart, but it does leave it inert, which means it will only recharge upon death. That's right, these aren't Estus flasks which will fill up because you've hit a resting point. You want to use these babies again, you're gonna have to die. You can even have multiple of these hearts at a time and still be unable to use them if they're inert. This creates a really interesting dynamic in the game that I'm not sure if I've seen done before. There's no other ways to heal yourself besides leveling up, so sometimes you have to make the tough choice between consuming a dragon heart to be safe or fighting more enemies for XP on low health in an attempt to conserve it for something worse. Another interesting thing that determines the skills and characteristics of your character is death itself, and not just in a punishing way. You start off at the age of 18, but every time your character dies, they'll age by 1 year. Every 10 years, starting at age 20, you'll be able to learn a new trait, which gives you useful buffs. The catch is, as your character ages, they'll start to find certain stats more difficult to improve, while others get easier. This aging system is a really standout feature, which is not only a cool idea, but it can also affect your playstyle as you progress through the game. Speaking of, what goal are you progressing towards exactly? Well, apparently we've been sent off to destroy a great dragon who in turn is being protected by 3 powerful guardians. So basically what we're doing is exploring different worlds that are linked together by these teleporting stones in an effort to find and destroy the guardians and eventually the dragon. Each time you find and awaken one of these stones, it permanently links with the others, allowing you to travel between them as you wish. The stones also serve as your respawn area if you're to die, though the game does autosave your progress otherwise. The worlds you explore are full of many ferocious enemies, magical items, and even some interesting puzzles to deal with. Some of them simply involve finding certain objects and combining them to make a key, but others require you to really pay attention to your surroundings to solve. I don't want to go too much deeper into the game as I don't want to spoil the experience for anyone wanting to play, and believe me, I think the experience may be one of the game's strongest aspects. For those of you wondering if this is a Souls-like game, it kind of is, but in a more streamlined manner. The gameplay has a similar skeleton as Dark Souls, but easier to get the hang of early on. You still need to pay attention and not play too recklessly, as enemies can take your health down to 0 quickly, especially in groups, but overall it doesn't feel as punishing. The exploration will involve you taking branching paths and revisiting areas once you've collected certain items or defeated certain enemies, but it's nowhere near as large as a Souls game would be, at least from what I've seen. I'll be honest, when games give you a ton of weapon, item, and stat choices, I get overwhelmed. I know I'm probably in the minority here, but sometimes too much freedom leaves me not knowing what to do. Chronos seems to find a good balance of giving you different ways to approach the game without going crazy with a million different options. From what I've played, the base game seems to be about 12 hours long. While that may be a sweet spot for me, I know some people like their games pretty meaty. That being said, the game is just $30, which I think is more than reasonable for how much content we're getting and how well put together it is. The gameplay is engaging, challenging, and rewarding. The world and the creatures that inhabit it are very creative. I know this is supposed to be a loose prequel to Remnant from the Ashes, and there's probably going to be references to that, but even having never played it, the world here feels immersive enough to stand on its own. I think the fantastic art design speaks for itself. And all the creative gameplay mechanics just helps the game be more unique than it might have been otherwise. Overall, I'm really glad I decided to give this game a try, and I can't recommend it enough.